Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of the EntreMD podcast. Now, you guys know I'm super excited every time I get on the podcast, but today I'm really excited because I have a dear friend of mine, Dr. Sogol, who's on here, and we're going to be talking about self-doubt, which is something that comes up all the time. And I think really, especially with physicians. So this is going to be a fun episode. So I want you to lean in. I want you to get all you can get out of this episode and remember to share it because this is going to help a lot of people. So Dr. Sogol, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me again. I had so much fun last time. Super excited that you reached out again. Appreciate it.
Yes, this is going to be so much fun. So I know you've been on the show before, but I'm going to have you introduce yourself to the audience, and then I'll get into the 1 million questions I had for you today.
Awesome. So I am a general pediatrician in Houston, Texas, in kind of the suburbs. I am in a private independent practice that my sister, which is also a pediatrician, and I are managing partners. We started it about 13 years ago, and we are catering predominantly to the underserved Hispanic community. And it has been a passion of mine to really advocate for that patient population. So I'm involved a lot on the national level and also on the state level with a lot of organizations and trying to really bring access and quality care to that patient population.
And you do it beautifully. I think I said this on the last episode we did together, but once upon a time, I emailed Dr. Sogol. I was like, so, you do a lot of neat things. Can I just fly out to Houston and come spend the day with you like a resident and see what's going on with your business? I was a business resident, right? And I flew out there and people, listen, really, really impressive practice that she runs. All right. So just so you know, she's a real deal. All right. So today we're going to be talking about self-doubt. I guess we should start from what is self-doubt, huh? Should we start from there? Yeah. What is it?
Yeah, so this is like Google helped me with this, right? I went and Googled the definition of self-doubt. So self-doubt is the inability to see the good things in yourself. And yourself is, I want to underline that and highlight that and put big arrows towards it because this is what we're going to talk about throughout this podcast. And then number 2 is the lack of confidence in self and your abilities. Okay. So let me say it again. Inability to see the good things in yourself and not having the lack of confidence in self and in your abilities. That it doesn't say that you don't have the confidence, right? It says that it is the lack of you recognizing, right, of your abilities and what you have within you, right? Those possibilities. So what I wanted to start out with, which is very true and kind of on an uplifting note, is that doubt is human. If you are a human being, you have doubt.
All right, so I'm going to have you say that one more time for the people in the back. No, I say this because it's so it's so nice that you start from here, because when I started out, I thought something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right? Because, everybody's out there confident and doing all these amazing things. And I just riddled with all this doubt. And I'm just a doubtful, bad person, you know? So yeah, let's do that one more time.
So doubt is human. I am human, therefore doubt. I can have doubt, right? That is programmed into my brain, and there is nothing wrong with me. If you didn't have doubt, then I would probably be way more worried than if you do have doubt. Okay. So completely normal, right? But we need to talk about, okay, it's there. It's part of our programming. So then now what do we do? Okay. Do we allow that doubt to just like hold us back in our safe comfort zone? Or do we recognize it? Do we stand next to it? And then do we work through it to get to whatever goals that we have? Right? And so these are the couple of questions that I want you to ask yourself when that comes up. Okay. First, can you recognize doubt in your life? Because so many people can't. So many people, these thoughts of self-doubt come up and then they either buffer it with like, I feel bad, I'm just going to go eat. I feel bad, I'm going to get on Facebook. I feel bad, I'm going to do, this kind of stuff. So learning to recognize it as what it is without beating yourself up is number one.
Okay.
How, and when you recognize it, what do you do with it? Do you say, oh my God, here you go, you can't do this? Like, do you start beating yourself up? Do you avoid it? Like, I'm just going to shut the door and not even think about starting that new business. Yeah, go away, doubt came, go away, right? Or do you embrace it? Do you hold it? Do you make it, what I say is, do you make it your best friend? Oh, doubt, hello, you're here, wonderful. We're just going to walk along the journey, but you're not going to guide the direction that journey is going to take me. Okay. And that's how the third question is, can we use it to our advantage rather than our hindrance? Right? Can we open the door to self-doubt rather than slamming it and trying to hold the ball underwater where it's like keeps, pushing pressure up to lift us up? So those are the three questions that I want you to ask. And I'm going to take like 5 minutes probably to give you a crash course on neuroanatomy, because
let's do it.
Yeah. All of these emotions come from your brain. Okay. Your brain creates thoughts, right? Then it keeps repeating the same thought. Let's say business is hard. I know the number one common thing for physicians. I am a physician. I don't know how to do business. I am not a business person, right? Dr. Una, you probably hear it way more than me,
all
right?
the time.
I don't do business. I don't know how to do business. Okay, yeah. That is not a fact. That is your brain that's been programmed over years telling you that you don't know how to do business, right? And that's why the CEOs are doing the business and then you have zero autonomy over your decisions. So let's talk about the brain. Okay, 3 big parts of the brain, right? This is like brain explained to a second grader, right? So 3 big parts of the brain. You have your primitive brain, okay, which is your reptilian brain. It's the oldest part of your brain. I call it the toddler brain, okay? That is the medulla, the pons, the cerebellum. Doesn't matter. It's in the back of your head. That's what I say. But that is the part of your brain that is survival and instinctual. Okay, so it allows you to survive. So what is survival to us? Fight, flight, or freeze, right? It's like when you are put in a very dangerous position, your brain, all of that cortisol comes in and then you're like, oh my God, do I fight, flight, or freeze, right? It's very impulsive, right? Then you have the limbic brain. The limbic brain is like your feelings, your emotions, and your big part is your amygdala, right? Then you have after thousands of years of evolution, right, you have the neocortex. The neocortex is the prefrontal cortex. Remember, like for pediatricians and kids with ADHD, and you're talking with teenagers, they say your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until 26 years of age. So before 26 years old, you have an excuse to be like, well, I don't understand. I can't deal with my emotions because I don't have a prefrontal cortex. But if you're 26 years old and older, then you need to be aware of this, and you need to practice making more intentional thoughts. So the prefrontal cortex is the one that distinguishes us from like animals, right? Because they don't have that developed prefrontal cortex. So prefrontal cortex is your executive functions, your awareness, your focus, your decision making, your planning, your executions, right? Those are the things that we use to become humans, because we can formulate a plan, and then we can create a protocol, and then we can make a decision, and then we can do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So those are your three parts of the brain. Okay. So and the third thing that I want to tell you about the primitive part, which is like the toddler part of your brain in the back of your brain. So the primitive brain loves to do three things, okay? And this is because us, when we were like cave women, we had to survive. So it likes to stay safe. It likes its comfort zone, right? It likes to expend the lowest amount of energy. So conserve energy, right? And it likes to seek pleasure. Okay. And the simplest way I can explain this is when we were cave women or men out there, right? In order to survive, right? We had to stay safe in our cave. If we went out, what would happen? We would get attacked, right? We had to conserve energy because we didn't have like heaters and electricity. And so we had to conserve energy in that way for times that there were, tribal fights or whatever, the lion was chasing us. And then we had to seek pleasure, right? Because seeking discomfort that takes a amount of energy as well. So then fast forward millions of years, right? And we're in the 21st century, we're safe. Like for the majority of the time, we don't need to worry about being safe, right? We have electricity, we have food, we have a roof over our head, most of us do. And we don't need to conserve energy, right? Because we have like cars that drive us to work, and we have all these other technology that can do that, those kind of manual work that we had to do as cave women back then, of cavemen. And so when your brain, your primitive brain, okay, your toddler brain when an idea comes up as like, I want to, you should really start your own business, or I'm really unhappy in this job that I have, but I've always dreamed to start my pediatric office, right? Okay, your primitive brain goes, wait, no, that's foreign. Yeah. Like, why would we want to do that? That's not safe, right? You have to put in so much energy to do that, right? And then that's so uncomfortable. Like, we're nice in our comfort zone, sitting here. Someone's just telling us what to do. We're cruising along, right? And so it is that self-doubt comes from that primary part, that primitive part of your brain, okay, that toddler part of your brain that is freaking out because it doesn't want to go to bed. It doesn't want to take a shower. It doesn't want to learn, to do their ABCs and do a homework and take tests, right? And so to be able to really recognize that is number one, just being aware of it, that it's normal. That's how we have evolved, and that it is normal for your brain to have these thoughts. And know that your primitive brain is the protective mechanism, right? It's quote unquote protecting you. So it wants you to stay within your four comfort zones. But so what does your brain tell you when you have some project like that? Are you crazy? Like, okay, so Dr. Una asked me to be on this podcast, and my brain went, why? Are you crazy? You don't know what you're talking about, right? These are all my thoughts that came through, right? No one's going to listen to you. Forget it. You don't even have time.
Okay. So this is really good. And I want to point something out that maybe somebody's missing right here, right? Okay. So you've had your practice for how long at this point?
13 years.
13 years. So you've had a private practice for 13 years. Yeah. You have a well-run practice with how many physicians?
8.
8 physicians. You own your own building,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're living your dream. So
Mhm.
people would look at you and say, oh, she's so confident. She has this all together. She's figured all this stuff out. And this is not like yesterday. We're talking about today before you came on this podcast. Your brain is going,
Yeah.
yeah. So who do you think you are? Who's going to listen to you?
Yeah.
And that just goes on to point that this doesn't go away.
Yeah. No.
It doesn't go away. Like when you see people out there doing things, they're doing it in spite of the doubt, not because
Yes.
there is no doubt.
Yes. They are aware that the doubt, they're not allowing the doubt to dictate their actions, right? That's why I said, make it your best friend. Oh, here you are. We're just going to walk alongside of you. Yep. Your thoughts are there. Your toddles in the background. And you're like, no, I see you're there. Right. And so those thoughts are going to come and are going to go, right? But if you believe in those thoughts, that's when you close the door, right? And then what happens when you close the door? Nothing.
Yeah.
You do nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's called inaction, right? You sit in your warm cave, you're eating your comfort food, and you're pretending to be safe. But if you dig a little bit deeper and if you look at the emotions that those thoughts are creating, they're not nice. Like you're not sitting in your cave or in your current job being like, I love this. I am so glad to go to work. I am so confident. This is exhilarating. I am so proud of myself today, right? No.
Not at all.
You're living in this perpetual what if, right? Yeah. Or like self-doubt, right? Right. And
so let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because there's an opportunity cost to letting doubt your doubt. So in the times that we live in times where, physicians are devalued in the healthcare space. We're in times where, doctors are being furloughed, doctors are losing their jobs, doctors are collecting unemployment checks. These are all things we never thought would happen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in this time, what is the impact of a physician living in self-doubt, like letting self-doubt dictate, right, their actions and stuff? What is the impact, the opportunity cost of that?
Yeah. So financial, right? I would say number one, if that's what your priority is financially, I mean, you're having physicians get their bonuses cut, get their contracts tweaked because they're decreasing their salaries so that's the financial part, right?
Yeah.
And then the emotional burden, which I think is so much more profound than the actual dollar part of it, right? Because if we are not emotionally where we need to be in a balance or recognize where we are, that trickles down to every single action and behavior that we have, which then creates whatever your life is right now, right? The results of your life, right? And so I would say big bucket financial, right? And then the second big one, which I would say is more important than the financial, is the mental, which then affects the physical and then affects the result that you're creating in your life.
So hashtag figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to point out is if you really dig deeper than that self-doubt, there is, and I look at my emotions, and self-doubt is an emotion, right? Just like uncertainty and overwhelm, or confusion and procrastination, those are all kind of negative emotions that we seem to indulge in, and it keeps us into like just stand still, right? And so if you peel, I think of it as an onion, and that is the top layer of the onion. But if you start peeling down and really self-reflecting, the core of this self-doubt always comes from 4 letters, F-E-A-R, fear.
Okay? I like that.
Let that sink in.
I like that.
Fear. So next time you have self-doubt about, a project, a marriage, your children, buying a house, whatever that be, to hone in on your fear and say, why am I afraid? And so fear, I'll list some common fears: fear of rejection. Oh my God, what if I do this podcast and people say, ew, she was horrible, right?
Yeah.
Fear of judgment, right? Same thing, right? The naysayers. Fear of failure. What if like I do it and like Dr. Una's like, yeah, we're not going to run that show. Like, that was awful, right?
We are running this show, by the way.
Fear of change. This is the second podcast I've been on. Change is hard, right? Fear of mistakes. Oh my God, what if I do it? Like when we started, like 15 minutes ago, I told Dr. Una, okay, so like you can edit this, right? If I make a mistake, it's editable. Editable. How do you say that word?
That's okay. Editable.
And then the most profound one for me, which I've done a lot of thought work on this, is fear of inadequacy, which can be a completely different podcast to itself. Fear of inadequacy. What if I'm not good enough? What if what I say is not, I don't know, gonna, turn over tides or something, right? What if what I say is wrong, right? That fear of inadequacy is kind of this, I think of it as an orchestra in the background, and it's just this soft little voice in the background, just all of us. And you have to do a lot of work with that to be able to recognize it. And then fear of uncertainty, which I think after COVID, everybody's experienced that, right?
Yeah.
So recognizing being aware of this toddler that is, creating these thoughts in my brain from the primitive brain is self-doubt, and then going a layer deeper and saying, where's that fear? I'm doubting myself because I fear something. And where's that fear coming from? Okay.
All right. So this is good. This is so good. And I think this is one of those, if you're taking a walk or you're doing laundry, you're going to want to go listen again with pen and paper, right? Because there's some work to be done here. So let's say I've never heard of this stuff. Like I've never thought of my thoughts, you know, right? Like, because nobody teaches us this stuff, right? I've never thought of my thoughts. I've never thought they're different from me. You're saying recognize this. And as you're talking, the person is probably going like, wait a minute, I have all those thoughts, but I thought it was me. Right? Like, so if someone is just starting this process, what do they need to do to become more competent with identifying these thoughts that are just separate toddler brain protective mechanism type things? Because like you said, if you don't recognize that's a big problem, right? So where do they start from?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about how your thoughts create your results so you can kind of see it. And I'll give you an example, and then I'll tell you like, okay, now that I know that that's what happens, then where do I go from there? Okay,
that's good.
So your thoughts are just patterns in your brain, okay? Your thoughts are created by a bunch of things, including your experience throughout life, social media, your culture, your parents, your friends, your religion. That's where you create those thoughts, right? In your brain, all right? And then you have certain triggers that trigger those thoughts, right? And so like for an example, I was always told education and higher education equals success, right? I come from an immigrant family, right? And so education is super important to us. And so you don't do sports, you don't do fine arts, you don't really have hobbies. You just study to be able to get a degree and then make money and then be happy.
Exactly.
Right? So then those thoughts that have been ingrained in you create some sort of emotion for you, right? Your thoughts create your feelings, right? So my feeling that was created by those thoughts, sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive. My feeling was very positive. So I was like driven, right? That was you need to get a higher education to become successful, right? And as an immigrant family, you're poor, so you really want to be successful. And so that drove me to be super, super driven, right? So when you feel driven, like what do? Right? You check off your tasks, you work really hard, go to school, you study really hard, you make, good grades. And so as a result, if you continue to do that, then you get a degree. Right? So that's the result that you create, right? But what if you're told as a woman, right? What if you're told as a woman, you need to.
You should be seen and not heard.
Yes, you should be seen. Oh, that's very good. You should be seen and not heard, right? Okay. So how does that make you feel when someone tells you should be seen and not heard? Like, are you like, whoa, inspired?
No, that's like trapped. Like I can't be who I am,
Yeah.
and it's not fair.
You feel
I don't
trapped.
have a voice.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you feel trapped, when you're carrying around that feeling of trapped in your body, are you like going out and doing stuff and doing podcasts and writing books and like, no,
No, because it doesn't matter.
Right,
because I'm supposed to be seen, not heard.
Yeah.
It won't matter.
Yeah. So then it's a lot of inaction. I feel trapped. So I'm just going to sit here and feel sorry for myself. And as a result, you get inaction, right? You don't create whatever you want to create, whether that be, a family or a book or whatever, a business, right? So that's kind of how your thoughts are creating your feelings, which is your self-doubt. And then if you're self-doubting yourself, you're not doing stuff, right? You're not going out and writing that book and writing that chapter and networking and talking to people and getting a publisher. And so your result is you don't have a book. And so understanding that model is super important. Like you have to practice that model and understand it. Then, so now if you're like, oh, that totally makes sense, right? That totally makes sense, right? So then now how do if I want to practice this, if I want to step out of my comfort zone, right? Because mind you, your brain has been thinking those thoughts for, I don't know, I'm 44. So whatever X amount of years that you are, that's how long your brain has had practice thinking those self-doubt thoughts. So it is going to take practice to unlearn those self-doubt thoughts with your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that makes conscious decisions based on deliberate thoughts, not program thoughts from your past, right? So 5 things. A daily check-in. You have to be conscious. Like you have to work on being conscious. Conscious doesn't happen subconsciously. Consciously is that primitive brain saying, oh my God, you should not do that because you're going to die. And then like everything from your primitive brain goes to death, right? You're going to start a business and then you're going to like not have any money. Then you're going to be poor. You're going to be homeless and you're going to die. Like that's the result. So daily check-ins, and the way I do my daily check-ins is I write a list of self-affirmation specific for that day, right? It's like giving yourself a sticker. Like you're giving your toddler a sticker, right? And it's not like, oh, the patient complimented me today. That affirmation needs to come from you, right? So like what I'm working on this month is being calm because I'm by surprise always rushing, right? You can probably tell in my speech, I rush, I go 120 miles per hour, right? And that served me okay for a while, but it's not serving me well at this point. So I would like to be calm. So I will say, I will write down specific parts of the day that I practice my calmness. Oh, you did really good when that patient was late or that MA didn't triage that patient. You were calm. You held on. So that takes me into finding evidence. So you write down your self-affirmations, right? Or I worked out today. I felt great. Or I didn't drink coffee, whatever that is that you're trying to work on, right? Then you seek evidence. So throughout the day, you seek evidence for what you did that you promised yourself to do, right? And that over time builds trust with yourself.
Yes.
And when you trust yourself, then you start to honor yourself, and then the possibilities are infinite. Notice, I did not say When your boss tells you, good job, I'm proud of you, or when your husband tells you, no, I said, when you recognize that within yourself is where the work needs to be focused on, right?
I love it.
And then along the seek evidence, number 3, you take inventory. It is so important. You have to write this. You cannot just imagine it in the clouds somewhere. The act of writing this stuff down and writing it and being consistent about it, I don't know. That's one of the things I'm going to go research. The act of actually writing it makes a huge difference. And that's from my personal experience. I did not journal until March when COVID hit. And since I have, I was like, why have I not journaled all my life? Okay. And your brain's going to tell you, oh, Lord, here's another to-do list. Now I got to journal in the freaking day while I try to put the kids to bed and shower them and feed them. Guys, it takes 5 minutes. You do not have to write a piece of literature. I do bullet points. 1, 2, 3, self-affirmation. 1, 2, 3, evidence. And then I'll talk about the other 2, right? Yeah, I mean, and I do. It doesn't matter how fancy your journal is. Like mine's a sheet of paper that I find somewhere. Like it's a notebook, a basketball notebook my son had. That's where I started journaling. That stuff doesn't matter. Okay. Then when you are doing this work, your daily check-in, you're finding self-affirmation, you're seeking your evidence, you're writing it down, your brain is still going to be like, yeah, you were calm, but remember that other patient that you yelled at, right? It's going to keep going to that negative. And this is where self-compassion comes into play. So what I say is, I'm human. And I am working on learning to be calm, right? Or I am learning to be calm, meaning sometimes I am going to be and sometimes I'm not going to be. But it's so important not to allow that toddler brain to be like, well, I told you, you can't do it. So you don't have time. Now you missed bedtime and now you missed it. Yeah. There's going to be a zillion thoughts that are going to come in your head. But to recognize that, oh, that's my toddler brain. I call my prefrontal cortex my parent brain. So it's like the parent saying, okay, yes, I hear you. Thank you so much, right? And then number 5, practice. Practice makes progress, right? Practice every day. Set your goals. If you miss a day, do not beat yourself up. Self-compassion, right? Pick up the next day where you are. And the more practice that you do, then you will have so much more insight, not just including self-doubt, but all these other thought patterns that are coming up and all these different beliefs that are coming up. And it's like it's like you just walked into the room and turned on the light and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, like that's a pretty room. Now, I love all of this. And this year was one of the years when I paid a lot of attention to how I think. Like I've done it a lot, but not like this year. And I was like, the most important thing I can do is change the way I think, because how I think determines how I act, determines my results, determines everything. So why don't we deal with this thing from the root? So I want to let everybody know who's listening. You may listen to these 5 steps and you're like, oh, we can't take all that. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. But this is really one of the habits that would be a separator. Mm-hmm. It does take that. And this is real work and this is good work. Imagine being free of self-doubt. Not that it's no longer there, but the impact it has on you, the effect it has on you is just not there anymore. And the question becomes, if you can imagine that, is it worth paying this price for? And my answer is yes. I hope yours is yes as well. But, she talked about the daily check-ins, finding evidence, taking inventory, self-compassion, practice. This is good work, like really good work. Okay. All right. What more do you have for us? This is so yummy.
Okay. Last quote. I'm going to leave you with the last quote. Okay. Self-doubt kills more dreams than failure.
Oh, unpack that for me. I like that. Okay. Self-doubt kills more dreams than failure. Okay.
Right? One of our biggest fears when we have self-doubt, right, and we peel the onion, we see the fear is, what if I fail? Oh, especially for us, right? God forbid you get a B on a test,
Oh,
right?
God
I was
forbid.
just talking to a pre-med student. I'm mentoring a pre-med student in California, and she's taking like Ikeme, some crazy like thing, and so much self-doubt, right? Discouragement, like she wasn't doing that well, and like not doing well was like B.
That's awful.
And so think about that's failure, right? Which we have so much, thoughts and beliefs that are attached to it, right? We're type A, we are a cream of the crop, we're top of our class, we can't make mistakes. Take that feeling of that failure, that first like C that you got. I got a C in my French class, and it was my only C in undergrad on my whatever transcript, right? Take that. So come up with that feeling that you had, that feeling of failure. Okay. Self-doubt is more toxic than that feeling of failure. Think about it. No one likes to fail. It's not a very good, it's a very uncomfortable feeling, right? So self-doubt takes it. Self-doubt, you don't even allow yourself to fail. You don't even begin.
It just cripples you.
It
paralyzes you. You're
totally,
done.
Totally. Yeah. Like you're done before you even started.
Yeah.
Right? Like who does that?
People,
who does that?
We do.
The example that I bring, and this is why I love being a pediatrician, and I really changed my perspective at like looking at kids now, because they're our biggest teachers, right? Do you think if an infant had self-doubt, they would be able to sit and crawl and walk?
No.
Right? You know how many times they fall on their butts before they start walking, and they just plop back up like, oh, yep, hit my head, cry 2 seconds, let's get back up and try, right?
And you know what's actually even cooler, or as cool, is the fact that as parents, we're okay with them, quote unquote, failing too, right? Like when I watch kids when they start walking, it's the most impressive thing. Yeah. The child takes 3 steps, the child falls, and the house goes wild. Johnny took 2 steps. Nobody says a thing about Johnny falling, right? Because if you took 2 steps, it means you took 2 steps and fell. Yeah. But nobody says a word about it. Everyone's like, oh, he walked. And the baby's like, oh, I walked. Like, imagine if we chase our dreams that way.
Yeah. Yeah. But let me tell you one thing. Fast forward from that baby, that parent, from that baby, 10 years. Uh-huh. And I'm not saying all parents do this, because definitely not. The more conscious parents don't. And that kid gets a C on their math test. Do they get the same reaction?
No,
right?
No.
And so those are where those beliefs start, those thoughts start being created. That's why you say some of it comes from your parents and your environment, right? And so that's just another food for thought, is that we as a generation are working so hard to change these limiting beliefs that were ingrained in us. So why not be aware of that, and not only help yourself, but with helping yourself, you will help anybody that's around you, including your children and your patients and your whatever, your staff and that. So it's a ripple effect. When you change, that change radiates, and it creates positive energy and action towards others. You don't have to change other people. You can't change other people, but that's a long talk.
Well, thank you for starting the change in you, because you're having a ripple effect here. But this is so good.
Yeah, I love this.
So self-doubt has killed more dreams than failure. Mm-hmm. That's the quote she's leaving us with. This is so good. So if you know how much you do not like failure, we want you to apply that same. This like for the control that we've allowed self-doubt have over us. This is so good. Okay. So where do people find you? They're like, wow, why should this conversation end? Where do people find you?
So the easiest place is just on my Facebook page. It's my personal Facebook page. It's Sogol Pahlavan. If you just like search it in there. I am in the process of setting up my kind of side gig, which is really focuses on this thought work, because it has revolutionized my life through COVID, and I am a completely different person. And that's going to be called Level Up Docs, but it is in progress. So you're not going to find anything on the internet. So reach out to me through Facebook. It's the easiest.
Awesome. Level Up Docs. So she said. Well, thank you so much, so much for coming on here. And for everyone who heard this, I say one of the best ways to learn is to teach. So I want you to take a screenshot of this episode on whatever app you're watching it on. And I want you to post that picture along with your biggest takeaways from the episode today. And be nice, share it with others because it will make a huge difference. Self-doubt is something as doctors we know very well. And we've allowed it to stop us. And it's actually dangerous for us to allow it to stop us in the time we live in because we have to evolve. We have to change. We have to level up, as Dr. Sogol says. And it's time for us to become EntreMDs. It's time for us to build businesses. We have all these things to do. We don't have time for self-doubt to stop us. So Dr. Sogol, thank you so much for coming on. This was exciting.
Yeah.
All right, people. We'll see you same time next week for another episode of the EntreMD podcast. Hey, if you love listening to the EntreMD podcast, I want to invite you to join EntreMD On Demand. It is my signature subscription program that gives you access to a library of business courses designed to help you do one thing as a physician entrepreneur, and that is to thrive. Just head out to entremd.com/on-demand, and I'd love to have you join us. See you on the inside.